We're still discussing the aftermath of this potential debate. They have a date set and everything. They have a moderator and everything set for it. I don't believe it's going to happen. I'll tell you a little bit more at the end why I say that. But let's look at Vivek Ramaswamy and Brendan Dillon, two people I highly respect. They're on opposite sides of this, kind of the fallout, trying to figure out what's going on. Because it looks like I'm not the only one who didn't think that there would be a debate, even like an agreed upon time. So I'm very surprised by this because in our country, who are they trying to reach? That doesn't make any sense. It really makes no sense especially from Joe Biden's standpoint. That's where Vivek's going to come from. I'll show you a tweet from him and then Brendan Dilley in a second. But just think about this. You're Joe Biden, and I know that's a disgusting thought to think about. But let's say you're Joe Biden, and let's assume that the polling's right, which is asinine, but let's say you're down on the polls. I got to go debate. Who are you going to reach? Who is the market for a debate that Joe Biden's going to go up against Donald Trump, where Donald Trump could say anything at any time? If let's assume Donald Trump's not a op or a controlled opposition, he could say anything at any time about anything, any subject. Why would you do a debate? That's the real question here. And when we're looking at this, we're playing chess. Like we had Bryson Gray on the Weekly Rumble, and he has a song in his full movie, an hour-long movie that's stringed together music videos, which is just amazingly done, by him playing chess with the devil. Unbelievable song. I love the song. And that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at the chessboard, and we're like, it doesn't make sense. Who is Joe Biden trying to change their mind? Say Joe Biden really is behind, and we'll look at the Dilley tweet in a second. Maybe go to the comments. Please tell me, what is this? What is the political chess move here for Joe Biden? Who is he going to try to win over? Of course, if he really is down in the polls, which I don't know. When I say I don't believe, I just don't know either way. Authentically, with an election that we could trust, I obviously think Trump would win. But I don't know where we are really in the country. But here's Vivek. Vivek Ramaswamy says, call me cynical, but why is Biden suddenly so willing to debate? It could be because he's desperate, or it could be because it's a setup. I don't blame Vivek for thinking that, because I was thinking that too, and I still think that's a possibility. But that's not my takeaway. Wait for my takeaway. Keep an eye on the details of how all this comes together. You don't often see a sudden 180 like this unless there's more to the story. So we have to, it is very important. This is art of war, not kinetic, thankfully, but we're talking about political warfare. And here's Brendan Dilley's side of it. So we got two different sides, and Brendan Dilley and them, they don't like Ramaswamy. Remember when Ramaswamy walked up to that woman and was like, this woman was a Trump supporter. And she was like, I'm scared about Trump and they're going after him. And Vivek kind of was like, it was very funny. Vivek was like, your man might go to jail. Why don't you come over to my crib? That's kind of how he kind of seduced her. And the Dilley team was pissed, boy. And I love the Dilley team. There's no beef there. But they're Trump diehard. Their goal is get Trump elected. And I hope to never have beef with the Dilley Meme Team because you'll see me get annihilated. But I'm going to call it how I see it. And my goal is not to get Trump. We don't have the same goal. As much as I love them, I'll retweet them. I think they're more important than Donald Trump at this point. They're patriots. And not that Donald Trump isn't, but we don't have the same goal. My goal is not to get Donald Trump elected. That's for damn sure. I'm not against Donald Trump, but my goal is not to get that bro elected. My goal is the country. And if Donald Trump isn't the one, he ain't the one. But that's what their goal is. And here's Brendan Dilley, the general, the highly respected one, Brendan Dilley. Joe Biden is doing the debate because he's down 10 in Arizona, 14 in Nevada, 9 in Georgia, and is statistically tied in Minnesota with President Trump. This isn't a setup, a trap, or any other silly pessimistic theory. It's a campaign realizing it has no path to victory. Which side do you lie on? Which one do you think is right? The Vivek, who says it could be a trap. He didn't say it was a trap. He's like, I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. Or Brendan Dilley. I side with Vivek. something doesn't feel right. Something's up. Period. And I know Brendan Dilley knows that too. But what he is going at is, how do we need to proceed? I'm the general here. I don't need my people speculating and wondering and worried about what's rigged or not or what's going to happen with the mute button. I need my people focused. Completely understand that. But here's my takeaway. I said I don't think it's a setup. I don't think it's a setup. It could be though. I mean that could be part of it. I think it's more of a bluff. To me, it looks like I used to play poker online mostly. A lot different than in person because you can have little tells in person, but online, and it smells like a bluff to me. I don't think this debate's happening. I still don't think it's happening. I shouldn't be in the prediction business, but I'm not going to make a prediction. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen. It feels a lot similar. It feels very similar to the Daily Wire and Candace Owens because felt weird. Ben Shapiro all of a sudden wanted to debate Candace Owens. He never wanted to. He could have debated Candace Owens on. They were on the same network. They could have set that up at any time, and he didn't want any of those problems. So what he's doing here is, I think he wants to have the credibility of make my day. I'm a tough guy. I'm not afraid to debate. I'm not old and senile. I'm not hiding in my basement. And Joe Biden knows, or the people running him knows, that there's going to be some type of intervention event. I don't know what the intervening event will be. It could be, what does it look like if Donald Trump's convicted? What does the timing look like for jail time? Like, and would he appeal? Would he still get jail time? If Trump is locked up, or let's say if Trump is found guilty. Let me just think this out loud real quick. If Trump is found guilty in the hush money trial, what is the timeline for jail? Let me just see and I'm going to my Chat GPT. Chat GPT is off the hook right now. Man, it is so helpful for anything. So let's see what it says here. I mean, this is on the fly. I have not done this yet. Let's see what it says. Just like Google, but just way better. I don't see a source here, but it says, if Trump is found guilty in the hush money trial, the timeline could be, the timeline for potential jail time would depend on several factors, including the nature of the charges, the legal process, and any appeals. So he probably wouldn't, because he's obviously going to appeal it. Conviction. If found guilty, Trump would be convicted of the charges. This would occur at the end of the trial after the jury or judge delivers a verdict. Sentencing. After conviction, of course, there would be a separate sentencing hearing. When would that be? So I don't think this is going to happen quickly. The judge would determine an appropriate punishment, which could include jail time. Sentencing hearings can take place weeks to months after a conviction. So this trial is going to be over real quick. So that could happen before the election, but it's not going to happen before the debate, June 27th. It doesn't look like it. Trump would have the right to appeal. Appeals process could delay the enforcement of any sentence, including jail time. Appeals can take months to years, of course. Incarceration if the appeals are unsuccessful. So I don't know. I still don't understand. It looks like Trump wouldn't be in jail by I think it was June 27th. But I think there's going to be some type of intervening event. It could be just Donald Trump being convicted. Well, he's going to be convicted. I mean, if he's not convicted, that would be a shock. But I think he's going to be convicted, and then Joe Biden could say, well, I'm not going to debate a convicted. Is it a felony? Yeah, it is. These are felony. They upgraded it from a misdemeanor to a felony, yeah. With this mysterious election. It's just so weird. Oh, my gosh. So terrible. What a terrible case. But he could say, I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to debate someone convicted of a felony. I'm going to ask ChatGPT here. I'm doing this on the fly, so I apologize. What if let me ask it to look up and search details about the case. So I'm going to have it look up, and I'm going to brainstorm here. What if he's convicted? Is there anything that could prevent him? So he's facing, let's do a little bit more on this, revisiting this. If he's found guilty in the hush money trial, the timeline for potential jail time would depend on these factors. He's convicted. He faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. They're all basically the same thing. So I think it looks to be all or nothing, but I'm not a lawyer. Each charge carries a maximum of 4 years in prison, though he could also receive a fine or probation. The judge would decide whether multiple prison sentences run concurrently or consecutively. That is crazy. So the judge could decide if he would get 34 times 4 each charge. So they broke up each charge, right? Is that what I'm seeing? 34 felony counts. That's how I'm interpreting this. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. So we're looking at 136 years. Let me just ask this question. My gosh, are we looking at potentially 136 years? And I don't know if the judge would do that. He will be convicted. I don't know if the judge is going to do that. Trump faces 34. If he were to receive the maximum sentence for each count, it would be 136 years in prison. That would be insane if the judge went that. Yeah, so that gives the judge a lot of room to do a year, 6 months. It gives the judge a lot of room. But the judge, well, it says a maximum for, yeah, so I don't know if no, it could be a fine or probation, so it doesn't even have to be. So it looks like the minimum it could be fine or probation or maximum of 4 years for each count. Sentencing after a conviction, a separate sentencing, like we said, weeks to months. Given the nature of the charges, Trump's behavior, some prison time is likely, according to legal experts. So he would appeal, which would delay the enforcement. So we know that. So let me see. So Trump, I'm going to ask it about the debates. Trump has a debate on June 27th. I think it's June 27th. If convicted, is there anything that would stop him? I don't think there would be. Would he have a parole officer? If convicted, would Trump have a... I don't think so. I'm just thinking out loud. I've done more digging into the legal system over the last few years, especially the civil side. Okay, if Trump is found guilty, he could potentially face significant legal consequences. We already talked about that. Probation and parole. If Trump is sentenced to prison but later released, obviously you would only have that after you're released. So if convicted before June 27th, would anything prevent Trump from debating on 6/27/24? I don't think there would be, but I'm just trying to brainstorm. If Donald Trump is convicted before June 27th, several factors could influence what? After a conviction, there's typically a gap before sentencing. Trump would also likely appeal, so that would be nothing. Conditions of probation or bail. If Trump is not immediately imprisoned and is instead released on probation or bail pending appeal, the conditions of his release could impact his ability to travel. You see this? See, I didn't even, I don't know the legal system like that, so I'm kind of looking at this. You see this? That lines up to my theory. Let me read this again because I'm just trying to skim it. It might be hard to follow. I apologize. Let me read this one more time. I'm doing this on ChatGPT. Let me read this once. And let me just share my screen. This is for real. I was meaning to do a 4-minute video, and then, of course, I just get to rambling. If you're still here, thank you very much. Visit mentalmega.com. Put your email up there in the top right, and I can holler at you. Look at this. So I asked it on ChatGPT. You should be able to see it on the screen now if you're watching it on YouTube. On the fly doing it. This is kind of like my research stuff. So join me for my little Google. This is the updated Google. ChatGPT has destroyed Google. It is so much better than Gemini. Gemini is getting better though, but still. Gemini, what Gemini does is if you ask it about Trump and get into details, it says, I have not been trained, something to the effect of, I haven't been trained to answer this question yet. Use Google. It doesn't want real answers. That's what it's afraid of. ChatGPT is not so much. If Donald Trump is found guilty in this trial, here is where we look at it. Appeals process. I think that's what we're going to look at. Appeals process. If convicted, oh no, look at probation and parole. If Trump is sentenced to prison but later released on probation or parole, he would have a parole officer. Wait, I'm not in the right section. Sorry. Hold on. Conditions of probation or bail. If Trump is not immediately imprisoned, because he won't be, and is released on probation or bail pending appeal, that's what would happen. He would be released on probation or bail. He'd be released on bail. Why does it say probation? Would you be on probation? No, it'd be on bail pending appeal. The conditions of his release would impact his ability to travel and participate in events. However, such conditions are usually more relevant to the risk of flight or public safety rather than restricting participation in public events like debates. So it would be very controversial, but it's possible that, and I think that would be up to the judge, that it would be a problem. And then there's things that Biden could bring up in the debate that I don't know if Trump could talk about, even though the trial's over. I don't know how that works. I think the gag order would be over because the trial's over, but I have to look that up. I'm not a lawyer here. Given these points, while a conviction would complicate Trump's participation, it's unlikely to, I never thought it would automatically prevent it unless specific legal restrictions are imposed as a part of his sentencing or probation conditions. I mean, this is lawfare. What would stop New York? That's the whole point of this. There's nothing legit about this process. So why would they all of a sudden be legit and say, oh, you were convicted by a jury. The whole point we did this was to stop you from running. We're rigging 2024 in advance, but we'll let you go debate. No, they don't want him to campaign. They'll say your safety issue. I mean, they could easily say that. The judge is completely corrupt. Judge Juan Merchan. So that's what my take is. I think it's a bluff.